the tornado watch goes until 4 a.m. The tornado watch goes till 4 a.m., covers a good chunk of our area, and you can see we've got a severe thunderstorm warning right now for Lawrence, for Washington, for Crawford, and for Du Bois County. This is a severe thunderstorm warning. The tornado warning here, and you can see it just kind of catches part of Orange County. In fact, those are actually, I just want to verify, 2 different warnings. These are 2 different warnings. So Orange County specifically is in the tornado warning, as is Du Bois County. So the storm right now is just entering into Du Bois County, the western part of the county. And I want to look at rotation here along this line. Some of the problems that we're going to see here during the overnight hours is there's going to be what we refer to as kinks within the line. And so we can see one of those kinks that's near Reeve, Indiana, and one of those kinks that's just to the west of Jasper. These are going to be the areas that can quickly generate tornadoes, and they can occur very fast. And so the Weather Service here is being proactive and putting out these tornado warnings early because, as noted, you can get very quick spin-ups with little to no notice on these. So we've got these tornado warnings that are out. Rick, you're looking in at these storms on Storm View 3D. I'm going to come over to you. We for sure have one of those kinks that is going to be just along the Du Bois and Orange County line. And I suspect that's why the Weather Service expanded it there. But you've got to be careful that even Jasper right now, that portion of the line has had tornado warnings on it through the day. So it's very possible that could drop a tornado.
Right. So just around and south of the Alfordsville area. And I think it's very important to say the difference between tornadoes now and what we had earlier in the day. Earlier in the day, we had one storm which is all by itself, and it basically can gobble up all the instability and all the fuel. This is a little bit different because we have supercells embedded within the line, which means it has to share some of that fuel. Doesn't mean you should let your guard down, but I don't think we'll get the strongest tornadoes that we had earlier today.
Yeah, these are more quick spin-ups.
They're quick type spin-ups, but those are the ones that get you off guard like that.
That's
so you have to be ready to go, kind of on your toes in this scenario.
And there's, you know, the thing is I'm sure in Louisville now you're hearing the thunder and lightning.
Just heard it in the
So
studio.
there's storms going ahead of the line that could have a hail concern as well. So there's a lot to deal with in this line. When you look at rotation in there on Storm View 3D, and this is one of the things we do with Storm View 3D is we really use it to look for rotation. And we use it to look to see if there's any debris, anything that's being lofted. Are we in a situation where you see anything that's being lofted that would give us greater concern than a tornado is on the ground, Rick?
I'm not seeing anything too concerning, or at least nothing that matches up inside some of those little areas of rotation, or the little dog tails or appendages, if you will, out on the line. But still going to keep a very close eye on this situation simply because these things can happen in literally minutes. So this is a scenario where you just have to be aware and kind of know exactly where you're going to go if a tornado warning happens to be issued. And we call these short fuse warnings sometimes simply because of the duration of them. They don't tend to be the longer ones. Obviously, this one goes until 11 o'clock, so this is not the kind of scenario where it's just going to be a 50-minute cut-in. This is going to be something we're going to stay with over the next 30 minutes. But right now, if you're in Du Bois County, there are signs that a quick spin-up could occur. I'm not seeing anything that is alarming or that screams tornado right now at the moment, but still watching the potential that we could see some debris. Now, I know what you're looking at. It may be kind of confusing with all these crazy colors and pinks. This is called correlation coefficient. So this samples the particle sizes and the uniformity. You can do both the vertical and the horizontal. And when it's just pink, it says everything is the exact same size. Now, if we were to have an area where it dropped out and had a big hole of blue, that would tell us debris has been picked up, a tornado is doing damage, whether it's shingles, bricks, let's say just some 2x4s, maybe some tree branches, stuff like that can be picked up swirling around, and radar would tell us that everything is very different when it comes to size, and that's an indication we have a tornado. And look at the lightning ongoing on the southern side of that screen. That's our camera believe in New Albany, or that's the Corden camera, which is just lighting
Seymour?
up. Seymour, so we have a lot of lightning out there, obviously, but we're not seeing anything in terms of damage right now,
Right.
where we have the tornado warnings, but it doesn't mean it can happen. So,
And Rick, just by the way, I'm going to turn the Louisville camera due north just because that's where we have a ton of lightning here out of Louisville. So,
Okay.
just want to mention I'm behind here, just making sure that the camera's aimed due north right now.
So this is obviously our storm view 3D. I'm going to go back over to the HD and just kind of give you a quick little update of what's going on. First things first, we'll address the tornado warnings. We had the one which includes just a real sliver of Orange County. That's along 150, which is west of Paoli, but does include French Lick. So if you are in French Lick, there is that little dogtail near South Martin area, so you do want to watch out for some potential rotation. Seems to be tightening
Rick,
just a little bit
yeah,
there.
and it's worth noting, by the way, the National Weather Service, you can see, did push that tornado warning further north.
Okay, that's a good call.
So I think that it's important to note, we saw that appendage, that little area of rotation, and I'll just highlight it for you so you know exactly what we're talking about here. That's near South Martin. So I'm going to go over to the weather wall because I want to show you guys a little bit on what we're speaking, and it just gives me a little bit of a better opportunity to show that what we're going to be looking for. So when we have a line, Rick, if we could just zoom out a little bit, when we have a line that is basically just looks like a bow, you're talking strictly about wind damage potential. Now, if you look at the line as a whole, you can see it has these little notches. So I'm going to show you. Notch, notch, notch. And so everywhere you get one of these notches, the reason that happens is the winds are pushing out a little bit further on the southern side of where you actually see this push. What that means is if the wind's there a little bit faster, that's rotation. So these exist because there's rotating winds there. And this is the reason why we have to watch extremely close in these scenarios. Because with little notice, just in the time that it takes the radar to go around, you can actually get a tornado spin up. So the warnings are out there and you need to be aware. So if you're in French Lick right now, the tornado warned part of the storm is not near you yet, but I want to note you're under a tornado warning. We put a track on this and we'll show you when and where the lines are going to be going, where the kinks exist. And again, we're going to kind of generally track a good portion of the line, and part of the reason is because there's going to be these kinks that are going to be developing very quickly. And so I think in this situation, it's more important that we kind of look at the line as a whole, but we'll focus specifically on where the rotation's located. So Lost River 13 minutes from now, and this gives you an eye in French Lick and Paoli when. And you know, I know Paoli, after what we saw for your area where there were 5 tornadoes around your location, there's going to be some uneasiness here. French Lick, you're 24 minutes from now, in Paoli, you're not under a tornado warning for you right now. But it's 39 minutes from you, and I think that kind of gives you the idea, okay, I live in Paoli, I need to be really starting to get my things together and be ready in case at around 11:20, and that's the reason I mention you. Jasper, it's really close to you right now where the line is, and we'll track that portion of the line that's coming through. Rick, before we track Jasper, can we put the velocity on there? Just because I want to take a look, and we just got a new scan in. So we still have a very notable area of rotation here north of Harbison, and let's zoom in on Jasper. You know, at minimum to me, I think we're focusing only on tornado, but we need to be aware that this thing could produce 60-mile-an-hour winds on top of that. In terms of rotation, you know, Rick, maybe a little bit more here north of Jasper. You know, the reality is this is your classic scenario where you can just get quick spin-ups out of this. Rick's gone over to what we call Storm View 3D, and you have this area that's west of French Lick that's very obviously rotating. But, you know, Rick, to me, as we look towards Jasper and Huntingburg, there's nothing really that jumps out right now. I'm not going to say there shouldn't be a tornado warning on this because this is the portion of the line that has had rotation, but it was rotating harder.
It was.
When this was north of Evansville. It just was.
I think in a scenario like this, the Weather Service putting out the warning, just simply put, after the day we had, is just wise. I mean, I really don't think there's any harm in this because there is a tightening while it is loosening up a little bit, we still have, this is called NROT, or normalized rotation. It just takes away all the clutter and shows you where we have that spin. Clearly, where those tornado warnings are banked up, there is some spin, which is now moving in. So that's the area we have to eye very carefully, because that's where we could quickly drop a tornado. So with this being said, this is going to stay north of Jasper. So if you are in Jasper, well, there's still a little rotation by you, but the strongest rotation is going to be right there on that blue.
FYI, by the way, dime to nickel size hail just reported out of Meade County.
Okay.
So these other storms that are ahead may be getting on the verge of going severe as well. Okay.
And like we said, we don't want to see severe storms, but the fact that we have these storms going ahead of the main line, it's going to help steal. And
because there aren't any. So these are things that we're going to continue to need to do. Just got a new radar scan in here. At minimum in the French Lick area, we're going to be looking at some smaller hail moving in, maybe to the size of dimes. Pea-size hail, be aware. There are thunderstorms moving in your direction. We've got some rotation. Rick, let's see if we've got a new version of the velocity, just because we got the new reflectivity scan in. You know, as I look at this, Rick, I still don't see anything out there that is a glaring sign of a spin-up that's occurring. But this is going to be our job tonight. We're going to be continuing to monitor every single one of these scans, hawking for those signs, because it can happen like that.
Absolutely.
We have seen it this year already. When we had the tornado form near Underwood, it formed pretty quickly, and in particular Port Royal, Kentucky, which was the tornado warning after Underwood, that was on the similar line a couple of weeks ago. There was no indication at all.
None.
Port Royal tornado, I always am honest with you guys. There was no warning on that. There was no severe thunderstorm warning. There was no tornado warning. Did the Weather Service do something wrong? No. There was no indication whatsoever. And sometimes that happens. There's the knobs, and you can see the lightning. Yeah. It is a lightning show out there. Rick, let's also look at the storm ahead of the line. I'm just going to get a sip of water here. Yeah. It's just been a lot of talking today.
The raspiness is definitely coming out. And a couple indicators we look for. I don't know if it's allergies or talking, or maybe a combination of the both. But a couple indicators that we do look for here would be an uptick in lightning or an uptick in the hail core. And honestly, just to the west of French Lick, it's still showing signs of producing some hail, which could range from, let's say, dimes to quarters to potentially even larger than that. So for now, we're not seeing any signals of some massive hail like we had earlier today. But French Lick, I would fully expect you'll get some hail in the next 10 to 20 minutes or so.
Is that tornado?
That's a tornado warning that's extended. So that's including French Lick, Paoli. Let's go back to storm view.
Okay, take you back over to HD.
So this one's until 11:15 p.m.
Okay, and so just so news knows, I don't know if we want at some point, do we stay with this or do we show some of what occurred today?
Whoa.
I'm going to let our news decide. If obviously with a significant tornado that occurred in our area today, we want to make sure that you guys are updated with that as well. We have the tornado watch warning right now through 11:15. So if we continue to go through 11:15, we may not have a chance to show some of that stuff. I just want to make sure news understands where we are. Obviously with the tornado that occurred earlier today and some incredible things that have occurred, I just want to make sure that news has can discuss. Tornado warnings in effect now for French Lick and Paoli until 11:15. Rick, we've
got warnings all over the place now.
We have a lot of warnings. The Du Bois County storm doesn't appear to be the show. To me right now, the show is what's going south of French Lick. The Weather Service obviously is quite aware of where that rotation that you and I have been talking about extensively is, Rick. And that's probably going to go along Indiana 37, maybe about a mile or two south of Paoli. And you're looking at Storm View 3D on that. 3D, let's go to the normalized rotation, Rick. It kind of can simplify what you're looking at. Generally, we speak to this product as green means go. Green means more rotation, blue means less, yellow means a lot, pink means we have a serious problem. We've got blues in here, Rick. The area that to me looks like the greatest concern is the one that's right south of French Lick.
Absolutely. Now, we're on the cusp of the green means go. This is just one level below that. So it's close, But like we said before, it is nighttime. These storms can be over 2 times as dangerous during the overnight because, number one, most people aren't paying attention. Number two, you tend to be asleep and you just can't see what's coming your way. So again, the southern edge of this warning, a couple of roads. Okay, so that rotation has now moved off to the east. County Road 525. That's one you should be aware of, some rotation moving overhead. And that's going to continue over 650 west. So just a couple of roads to just be weary of. This is again in Orange County, so the warning has extended its way off to the east. I'm going to flip back over from normalized rotation back over to storm relative velocity, which shows those areas of rotation now, which are diffuse, but they exist.
So we just got a report, by the way, out of Prospect of quarter-size hail. I'm going to pass that along to the Weather Service, but this could require a warning here for Louisville as well. It's not, I don't think we would be talking about tornado warning. It'd be more likely that if we were to get warned in Louisville, it would be severe. But again, you know, I want you to note there are warnings now out on all over the place. That area ahead of the main line is now warned as well. And so you can see we now have another warning, and this is, you know, obviously sensitive area. So, you know, this is south of Madison and Milton, but it's heading towards Carrollton, and Carrollton's already had a rough go of it today. Let me show you what our warning is for Carrollton. Severe thunderstorm warning right now for 1-inch size hail. The 1-inch size hail is near Monitor, and it is heading towards just south of Carrollton, towards around the Easter Day area. 60-mile-an-hour winds are possible as well. Be aware that this is a storm that is very likely producing hail that is just in Trimble County, north of the Bedford, Kentucky area. I do want to mention that we have gotten a report that the storm that is near Prospect, the one that now is near Crestwood, did produce quarter-size hail. So some of these other storms are producing hail. Storm near Palmyra as well is a concern. This one has potential to produce winds and hail, and you can see there's just a lot of warnings out there. I guess that's really the only way to put it. We just got a new warning here as well. You have the tornado warning that is in effect until 11:15 for Paoli, and then there's also a severe thunderstorm warning ahead of that. And I'm just going to check, Rick, to see if that's TOR possible on that, because a lot of these have been issued with tornado possible. One of the things I will mention, some people had never heard of the term tornado possible prior. The reason the National Weather Service uses severe thunderstorm with tornado possible is these can produce tornadoes with little to no notice. It is a philosophical thing that we use. Now, some people may say, Mark, I don't like that. If there's a possibility of a tornado, issue a tornado warning. Understand that we would probably have 4 times the amount of tornado warnings. 4 times, and our false alarm rate would go through the roof. In my enterprise as meteorologists, we are faced on a regular basis with this challenge. This challenge is if we try to catch every single tornado with a tornado warning, we risk an entirely large false alarm rate. And prior to around 2011, our false alarm rate was about 75%. And I want you to think about that for a moment. That means 3 out of every 4 times you went under a tornado warning, it was wrong. After that occurred, there was a huge tornado event, I should say 2011. After that event occurred, the Weather Enterprise came together because a lot of people that died, or we had a large fatality count in a 2011 season, and many people said, I went under warning so many times, I stopped paying attention. And it really captured our attention when we heard that.
Call it warning fatigue.
Warning fatigue. And it really affected the way we do this. We heard people saying, we don't pay attention to your tornado warnings anymore because you issue them so often. And so we have now adopted a policy where if it can produce a quick spin up, more often we go with severe with tornado possible. And that's what's ahead of the line that's near Paoli now. Now, Rick, the rotation area, while it's not incredibly impressive, to me looks like it's nearly now shifted to being on top of Paoli.
Absolutely. It's enough to warrant your action. It's enough that you should be up off the couch in the safe place, whether that's a basement if you have it. If not, you really got to find an interior room that's far away from windows. That's your safe place. You should be there right now if you're in Paoli. The rotation is on top of you. It's also tracking off to the east, and there are little areas of rotation just outside of the Warren box to our south. So this is something that we need to keep an eye on.
And is that a new scan there? Or is that
This is the new scan.
Okay, so that now is shifting just southeast to Paoli. Is that along Indiana 150?
It's still around 150, but it is closing in on the Chambersburg area.
Okay, so I'm curious. I'm going to go over to the wall real quick, but Rick, let's just do our analysis on this.
Okay.
So generally what we do on these is we need to go through the process. The process of, is this a tornado warning? Is this the kind where we're seeing a tornado touchdown? Do we need to ratchet up? Number one, if you're in Paoli, you need to be in your safe spot. Now look, I don't need to tell you after what occurred where we had the 5 tornadoes around your area, we don't take risks. Those days, a lot of those were severe with tornado possible. The area of rotation is pretty close to Paoli, just to the south. Rick, let's go through our process of looking through what we have out there. Number one, I want to look at the rotation. The area of rotation is right along Indiana 150. Next, Rick, I want to look at the correlation coefficient. Are we looking at something here that says that there is a tornado doing damage? So there's this blue hole here east of Paoli. Rick, let's put on reflectivity just to make sure that's a rain-free area. It is. So that does not indicate a tornado. So going through the process of what radar tools allow us to say with certainty, say with uncertainty, or not say at all, what I will tell you right now is we have an area of rotation that's near Paoli. There's not a glaring sign right now that says tornado is occurring. This is a tornado possible scenario. But again, I feel, Rick, sometimes when we have these storms going through areas that have been affected by severe tornadoes in the last, couple of years, there is a level of trauma that goes with going through that. And, I know people in Paoli right now are uneasy, and rightfully so. We saw a lot of damage. We've got some video out of the French Lick Resort area so you can see what's going on. And this is a live camera here. The French Lick area, obviously, in Paoli, we would always think about a couple of things. One, the several tornadoes that occurred. But Rick, you were here. I was on my way to Alaska at the time. When we think of French Lick, Paoli, West Baden, we think about also the huge hail.
We looked at the picture today. It was baseball to softball size hail that we had, and we saw the damage done at the French Lick Resort. Right. I mean, it just crashed through every single.
It was stuck into the golf course.
It was crazy. Some of the hail pictures that we got, and the damage to all the windows and the ceiling, all those glass plates.
And the West
had
Baden
to be replaced at West Baden. Yeah, I mean, so there was so much damage there, so much money, and these are the same locations. So I know you probably have nerves.
Exactly.
There's anxiety around this, and it's rightfully so. I mean, you've been through so much, and right now we're here with you to get you through this storm. It is on top of you, but like Mark has been alluding to, the rotation isn't enormously strong that we're saying this is definitely producing a tornado. In fact, this is a lower end risk, and you can tell by the tone of our voice. I mean, we would definitely kind of elevate our tone and be a little more assertive if that happened to be the scenario. But for now, either way, it's still smart to be in your safe place. French Lick right now with the heavy rainfall. And I know in Louisville, you're probably thinking, what does this mean for me? I mean, there's rain, there's lightning, there are storms around us. But for now in Louisville Metro, there is nothing severe. There's that one storm just to the north and to the west that is severe. That one's for 60s and also some 60 hail, quarter-size hail. But in Louisville, you're probably saying, what does this mean for me, right? Like, what's next?
And so, in Louisville, what's going to happen here, and I just want to show you what we have occurring. So as it stands right now, you have two distinct lines. You have a line that's ahead and a line that's in the back. Now, a couple things I want you to note. There is lightning that's intensifying now from Litchfield, Brandenburg through Louisville. You'll notice on the back edge that some of that lightning is starting to disconnect. And I'll show you what I mean. The lightning on our radar systems goes back about 30 minutes. So you'll notice that there's a ton of lightning on the back edge of this, and you'll notice on the front edge there's not as much. What that means is the lightning count is decreasing on the front edge of this. So I believe we're in this period where at some point these two are going to merge to one, and that may allow a weakening of the back line. Now, if that occurs, what that would mean is that the front part of the line would start to potentially intensify past Louisville. If that occurs, that bypasses Louisville, and that is a reality here. Weather Service at some point may go over to what we refer to as severe with tornado possible on the whole line. They've already chosen that ahead of the line that's near Paoli, and I'm just going to check on the Weather Service chat. you know, I got to say that they've done a really good job of communicating well with us what they're seeing. 51-mile-per-hour wind was reported in Du Bois County when the storm moved through there. We don't have any reports of damage or damaging winds at this point, which is good news. But you know, the Weather Service has had a tornado warning on this storm for some time now. And I'm going to take you back over to Storm View 3D. And Rick, there is rotation. It's just not very strong.
It's not very strong. In fact, it's weaker than it has been this entire time, which is a really good sign that the rotation has come down, which kind of speaks to the fact that we think that southern line is starting to disrupt what that can ingest. And these storms, they want to ingest warm, humid air. That's their fuel. That's their gasoline. And if you cut that off, then these will tend to weaken, and that's the exact trend that we are seeing right now. Doesn't mean you should let your guard down, but I do think the Weather Service will probably end up doing more severe thunderstorm warnings with tornado possible tag. It seems like this entire line is going to get warned for some gustier winds, 60 miles per hour, if not stronger. And you can see the Weather Service just trimmed the tornado warning, so it includes less real estate. French Lick no longer in the path, but Paoli and Chambersburg along 150, you still remain inside the tornado warned box.
And I just got a report here out of the Charlestown area that there's hail forming. And let me be clear here. So now we've gotten reports out of Prospect, Goshen area. We've now got reports out of the Clarksville area. Understand, even the storms that are not warned are producing hail. So, you know, again, just to be clear here, this means hail right now just north of Todd's Point in the southern part of Oldham County. This means potentially hail right now that is along 265 in southern Indiana, gets to near the Bridge, crosses the river into Prospect. Not severe at this point right now. This means we've got hail occurring right now in Martinsburg and Palmyra, and this is a hail fest. We've got likely some hail that's falling near West Point. That one's going to go through southern Jefferson County. Flaherty, we've got potentially some small hail there. Everything's producing hail, so we're getting some hail near the Hardinsburg area. And then the back edge of that line, again, as Rick's been noting here, our area of rotation right now, the Weather Service has chosen to what we refer to as CHOP. CHOP just means that they're cutting the tornado warning back. I put a message out to the Weather Service to ask their plan. I'm going to let news know right now, guys. If the tornado warning is not extended beyond 11:15, be prepared. We're going to come back to you guys, allow you to do news, and then Rick would kind of still do his weather segment. You know, and just so you know, kind of behind the scenes, what happens here is, you know, there's a lot of people here you see on TV too. If you were to look around our studio and in our control room, you have 15 people that we're all trying to do things sometimes differently as we organize how we get on and what we get on. So the area of rotation north of Chambersburg, I will again just be forthcoming on this. I am not overly impressed on what I am seeing. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Correct.
But this is also quite different than what occurred this afternoon. This afternoon, we had an individual supercell. You might have heard Rick and I use the term tail end Charlie. So tail end Charlie means a storm that's on the tail end of the line. Why does that even matter? Here's why it does. Because you have energy that's finite in the atmosphere. Now, if you're to share that energy amongst a huge line of storms like what we have now, or if you're to monopolize that energy to one storm, which is going to be more powerful? It's a storm that gets all the energy. So in this scenario, since they're having to share, we're seeing not weak storms, let me be clear on that, just not to the level of what we saw earlier. I think it would be a natural question to ask, could we get one of those tail end Charlies? The answer is not in this scenario now. That would be out of our area. So I'm going to check with the Weather Service here briefly. I'm getting reports, by the way, of about dime-size hail out of the Charlestown area. And to everybody that sends me a report, let me just say that I appreciate that you very, very much. Rick, just so you know, the National Weather Service has said that they are going to expire the tornado warning, that they're writing that up right now. News, just a note on that, so you guys be prepared. We're going to be coming back to you. And we're going to talk a little bit more, obviously, about what happened today. Rick, you know, what occurred earlier today was what we call a classic supercell. We tracked that storm, and it was rotating as a supercell for 180 miles.
Yeah, went all the way across the state of Kentucky.
To West Virginia.
To West Virginia. It was an impressive supercell, to say the least. And, I mean, unfortunately, we saw the video coming in from Milton, from Madison, and around basically that crossing over the Ohio River. And it was jarring to see that tornado going over the Ohio River, which debunks one of the myths that people always say.
Thank goodness.
I know. It's like you cannot get a tornado over the Ohio River, but that happened today. So if you've ever said that, trust me, prove that is not the case. We saw it cross over the Ohio River, all the damage done in Madison, Milton. And I feel bad for these people because if you haven't gotten the tarps on your roof, if you haven't secured everything,
it's coming down.
It's coming down in those locations. It's going to pour on many locations that, you know, they already got hit hard today and took that big right hook. So I really feel bad for people in those locations who've already lost so much, and now you could potentially lose some more with drenching rain moving in along with these strong storms. And we are not going to turn our back on these, trust me. We're going to watch these storms every step of the way, so that way you're ahead of it and you can react before the worst of it gets to your location. And that is our job. That's what we do, protect life and property.
And I'm going to go over to the weather wall one more time, guys. Since the tornado warning has now been listed as expiring, unless we see a pressing issue right now, we're going to come back over to news here. So, Rick, let's do a 3D analysis here of what we have in Paoli. Again, just noting, if we feel at this point, since the National Weather Service has already put out the expiration on this, if we're not seeing anything that shows distinct rotation, we're going to go back to news, and we'll obviously come back and cover these. We're not abandoning you guys. We're going to stay with you as the storms move through. But what we know is that we have other stories that want to share those. So, Rick, let's take a look briefly here at Storm View 3D. I want to look specifically in there at the rotation here. That area of rotation now is off to the east of the Chambersburg area. Let's go over, Rick, if we could. Are we on 3D?
We're going to go over that right now.
Okay, so we're going to go over to Storm View 3D just because this is our basic analyzer. This is where we really try to dive into if we've got rotation on this. I tell you what, I don't see it. I don't see this. Let's just put this into motion, roll it back a few frames here, Rick. Just want to make sure that we have a good sense of where the rotation is. Okay, there it is. Let's rock it forward now. Continue. Here's our rotation. Here's our rotation becoming more diffuse, falling apart. So what we're going to continue to do here now is Rick and I are going to continue to watch these storms. If we see an uptick in intensity, we'll come right back in. Remember, you're still going to get another weather segment so we can update you on what's going on. But we're going to take it back to news here and let news discuss. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about what occurred in Milton, Madison, and some of the areas that saw a significant tornado. 11:11 right now. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Your new furniture with a low monthly payment and 0% interest for 7 years. Shop your local Ashley store today.
There it goes. It's down. It's touchdown. Oh, you can see the debris flying. Oh, my God.
This tornado swirling near Madison, Indiana, an EF2 tornado confirmed by the National Weather Service touched down in the Milton, Kentucky area today.
So the damage caused by this in some of our areas devastating. Destroyed, debris all over, and people trying to figure out where they're going to be going from here. We want to show you now some video from the Mound Hill area. This is southwest of Carrollton. Again, you can see that funnel cloud moving through those trees, that tree line.
Shortly after 2 o'clock this afternoon, the great news to report: no serious injuries, no fatalities from that twister. It was fairly narrow, which helped as well. You can see the swirling black clouds and that tornado moving across the region. Our team coverage takes us across the river to Johnson County, Indiana.
WDRB's Stefan Johnson shows us this destruction in Hanover and Sandy Beach.
Our first stop was in Hanover, and it was pretty bad there. We found a homeowner who had part of his roof ripped off. His garage was gone. For the very best view, we want to take you to our drone camera, which was in the air above Hanover just after the storm hit earlier today. It was a mess. The homeowner said he was in his house. He heard heavy rain, winds blowing, and came outside, and there was debris everywhere. Back here on the ground, we're on in campground 56 off Route 56, and this is a RV park. An RV park, and you can see behind me, it is just as bad. It's actually worse than what we saw in Hanover. There is a trailer submerged in water. There are mobile homes on their sides. There are trees that have been split and knocked down, and there's just stuff everywhere. But again, we talked to some folks who were surveying this area, and so far it doesn't look like there are any significant injuries.
Everybody was called. There was no guest here. Everything was vacant, which helped the process. We didn't have to do a search and rescue mission. So everyone is here now. It's just clean up, insurance, and contacting everyone to let them know that their campers are messed up.
Again, this looks really bad. I mean, it's a mess. But again, the good news, no one was injured and people are coming together. There are volunteers from churches who've stepped up, and there are neighbors coming out helping other neighbors. But the thing that we've noticed here is that everyone will agree it's going to be a while before this place is back to normal. With photojournalist Neil Johnson, I'm Stefan Johnson, WDRB News.
And we are thinking of everybody impacted tonight. Getting to some other news, prosecutors are now asking to combine the trials for the suspects charged in connection with Crystal Rogers' death. The special prosecutor Shane Young is asking that Brooks Hauk, Joseph Lawson, and his father Steve Lawson be tried together. All three suspects have asked for a change of venue in the case because of the huge media attention. Young says a change of venue is another reason to have a joint trial, saying the logistics of moving a case of this magnitude would be monumental. He says requiring multiple trials in another venue would be a waste of money when the same facts surround the same events. A judge is expected to hear their arguments at a hearing on March 21st next week. Right now, the trials are set for 2025.
WDRB weather, sponsored by Swope Family of Dealerships.
It was a dangerous day in Milton and Madison, where the Weather Service confirmed at least an EF2 tornado with winds up to 135 miles an hour possible. And now it's turned into a nerve-wracking night with a tornado watch until 4 o'clock in the morning. And we are also seeing several severe thunderstorm warnings indicated by the orange boxes. Just a quick heads up, Lawrence and Jackson County, you are now in the clear, in the green, because the threat for severe weather has ended for you. First things first, let's talk about the lightning. It is like a strobe light, an electric show out there, all the white representing the lightning. So let's first take off the lightning so we can actually see what's beneath that. And those are the thunderstorms. So let's give a quick little radar tour around the area. And I want to show you where we had the severe thunderstorm warning. So Mark, if you would kind of just give me a quick little tour and show us where we have the warnings ongoing. Mark?
Rick, I'm sorry. I thought you were on the other computer.
That's
I apologize.
All right. Nope.
So I thought he was using the other weather system.
Okay.
We're back on the same page.
Back on here. So we're going to start in Carrollton, right around 71. Carrollton, New Liberty, Warsaw. This is not a tornado warning. It's a severe thunderstorm warning. Main two threats, winds to 60 miles an hour and some quarter-size hail to 1 inch diameter. So you go in your pocket, you pull out a quarter, and that's how large the hail could be. We also have another severe thunderstorm warning. Includes Clark, Floyd, Oldham, Washington County. This one will be until 11:45 p.m. Again, the same threats apply. High winds along with some hail. We had the last severe thunderstorm warning off to our west, and that one has the same threats. The main line now starting to merge, and all this will work its way across the area in the next hour or two. Once the line slides through, the severe threat comes down, and luckily we've had storms going out ahead of the main line, and that is robbing some of the energy. But still, be on guard for some warnings tonight. Low pressure in Alaska, just south of it, that's going to deliver this cold snap, which will equate to highs in the 40s, lows in the 20s, and even the chance for some snow showers and some flurries. Look at the electric show going on behind me in downtown Louisville. Lots of lightning tonight, so if your pets aren't a fan of the thunder and the lightning, it's going to be one of those long nights. 74 your current temperature. It is mild across the area with 60s and 70s no matter where you are. With the warmth, with the fuel, that's why we are seeing those strong to severe storms out there tonight. Don't want to spend too much time on temperatures. Obviously, once that line goes through, numbers will start to cool, but we still have several hours to go. In midnight, we're looking at storms along the Ohio River. By 1 o'clock in the morning, they're hitting the parkways, and then by 2, they're in Adair County. By 3 o'clock, we are finished with a severe threat. Cold front slides through, but we have some showers lingering tomorrow, late morning through the early afternoon. Watch out for some pops of rain. It should dry out for the Friday evening commute. Clouds decrease, and that will set us up for a pretty good weekend. A cold start on Saturday with patchy fog. Temperatures will climb into the 60s with lots of sun from start to finish. It's on Sunday the next cold front arrives, and this will deliver a mix of clouds and sunshine, breezy conditions. It's on Monday we have the opportunity for a couple of those snow showers and flurries to fly, especially north and east of the city, which is crazy. Went from a high of 82 today to low temperature temperatures in the mid-20s by early next week and the chance for snow showers. I mean, you have to admit, it's kind of ironic considering that is also the first day of spring. So strong to severe storms tonight. High winds and hail, the main two threats going forward, but we can't take off a brief spin-off from that list. Tomorrow, showers linger. It's a lukewarm 68 for your high temperature. We're in the mid-60s on Saturday, drying things out. Cools down for St. Patrick's Day. Snow showers on Monday, the first day of spring, a low of 26, a high of 49 degrees. Obviously, we are not done with the severe weather threat. Mark and I will be here all night long watching the storms and making sure we get through this safe and sound. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
Craft the home of your dreams at Build My Place. Shop with confidence in our massive design facility with our product.
For the entire staff to receive this mental health training.
Well, all that debris and destruction up by Milton, Kentucky, across the bridge, Madison, Indiana, on the beaches there. But the great news to report today, and I think it's the star of the show really, is that there were no deaths, no serious injuries we can report in that.
Miraculous, miraculous. And we don't want to see any more damage tonight. We don't want to see anyone get hurt. So please be weather aware. We just had a rumble of thunder, which literally shook the building here on Muhammad Ali Boulevard. So stormers packing a punch. I would say moving forward tonight, the main two threats would be for some high winds and some hail. Gust to 60, 1-inch hail, but cannot take that brief spin off the tail because we're just in a scenario like that. So let me show you where we have the active severe thunderstorm warnings. We still have 2 warnings ongoing across the area. The first one for 1-inch hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. That's for Carroll, Owen, and Switzerland County. The other severe thunderstorm warning for Clark, Jefferson, and also Washington County. That one until 1 o'clock in the morning. And then more hail and high winds through Clark, Floyd, and Oldham County. A lot of severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing across the area. We're going to stay here watching these storms all the way through the night, but they should start to weaken from northwest. That doesn't mean we're going to let our guard down.
You guys are staying put, and they'll break in if they need to.
You got it.
Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. We'll see you on the other side tomorrow.
There's no limit to your getaway during the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event, on now at Oxmoor Hyundai.
So we've got another tornado warning, and we are back in to cover what's going on here. This one now is in effect for Breckenridge, Meade, and Hardin County. Tornado warning was just issued by the National Weather Service. Let me get the time on this.
All the way through midnight.
So this one goes through midnight. So we're going to be with you guys for about another 25 minutes as necessary. If the threat does come down, we would go back. So let's show you what we've got ongoing here. We'll show you the map so you can see where we've got the tornado watch still in effect. We're getting counties that are shaved out of that now. Longer for Jackson, Lawrence, Orange, and Du Bois County. And quite frankly, I do think it's worth noting that in Louisville, we've got a ton of rain and thunder and lightning ongoing right now as storms are moving through. Let's get into the tornado warn part of this storm. Rick, I'm going to head over to the wall here so we can kind of go through this.
Sure.
Tornado warning just issued for Breckenridge, Hardin, and Meade County. So this is a new tornado warning. Also note that the hail to the size of 1 inch is possible. Some of the challenges that we're going to be dealing with tonight, if we're just being completely forthcoming, is that these storms have the ability to quickly spin up. And it is very obvious tonight that the Weather Service is choosing to go tornado warning more than severe thunderstorm with tornado possible. And the philosophy is somewhat different with how we use these. These are tools that we have in a toolbox. And sometimes if we think that the rotation is more concerning, we'll issue this tornado warning. If we're sometimes like maybe this could drop really fast and then come back up, may use severe with tornado possible. As it stands, Weather Service chose tornado warning, and let's show you where the rotation is on this portion of the storm. Now, one of the most important things when you're identifying rotation is where is the radar, because we look for the colors, the greens next to the dimmer colors or the sometimes red. So that area rotation right now is just north of Hardinsburg. Let's spend a little bit of time on storm view, and we'll do that after Rick tracks. But this is going to give us the ability to really get and dive into what we have out there. So our track on this one puts it in 4 minutes in the Garfield area. So if you live in Garfield, take your tornado safety precautions. Graysville, 8 minutes from now. It'll be in Corners, 12 minutes from now. And Big Springs, about 17 minutes from now. This is also producing potentially 1 inch size hail. So understand, both apply for you. Now, as we look here, Rick, just so we're on the same page here, are we looking at storm relative or are we looking at base?
This is Relative. You want base?
I just want to look at both just briefly so we can kind of see which products is going to give us the better choice in terms of what the rotation looks like. So let's look at base velocity here briefly as well, Rick, just so I can make sure that what we've got. So you'll notice that there was a strong wind south of Hardinsburg. Rick, hover over, is that a 60?
That is a 60-mile-per-hour wind.
Okay, so we know that the storm has produced 60-mile-per-hour winds. The area of rotation is about 2 miles off to the east of Hardinsburg right now. Now what we're going to do is look underneath here. We're going to look to see if there's any debris being lofted. And so we switched to a product we call correlation coefficient. Now if you're watching this afternoon, we saw basically a blue hole generated in the middle of this sea of pink. Why does that matter? Understand what the product's doing. The product is looking to see, is the precipitation particles the same? Of course it's the same if it's raining, right? I mean, that's, all the raindrops are the same size. This isn't rocket science. Right, what can change that size? Hail. If you've got a lot of hail in the storm, you can sometimes see what we look at speckles. If there's a tornado though, think about what I'm saying now. There's going to be debris being lofted. That's right. Debris is going to be different size than raindrops. And so what will happen is you will get a blue hole right in the middle of the sea of pink. We don't have a blue hole in the sea of pink. So what this is telling us right now is the radar is not confirming a tornado on the ground. So this is a severe thunderstorm where we may be generating a tornado. Looking back now at the velocity here, let's see if we've got a new scan to assess. No new scan at this point right now, still off to the east of Hardinsburg by about 3 miles. And you can see that area of rotation. Rick, this kind of resembles, to me, what we were looking at a little bit earlier that was going through Du Bois County. The difference is that we're lower to the ground. Area rotation where the other one was much higher. This area rotation, what are we looking at? Maybe about 1,800 feet above ground there?
Pretty much, exactly.
Okay, so this is closer to the ground. So that means that the rotation's trying to travel down through the atmosphere a little bit more. So that's probably why the Weather Service chose tornado warning on this. It just, when it's closer to the ground, you have to be a little bit more aware.
Absolutely. So obviously this is much closer to the radar, and the closer to the radar we are, the better we can sample the storm because that radar beam is tilted up. So if it's too far away, you're looking at the top of the storm. If it's a little closer, then you're looking inside the storm itself. And there are multiple areas where we are seeing some strong winds, not just to the east of Hardinsburg now, but outside of the tornado warning box. I'm going to zoom in just north of Irvington. And each individual pixel, we refer to those as gates. And this is showing some winds of around 52 knots, which would be at least around 60 to 65 miles per hour, because you multiply that by 1.15.
And that's outside of the tornado warned area. So, I mean, it's important to note here.
It is.
We can get this. This is what's going to happen. You can get these quick areas of rotation that spin up, and we've got to watch every one of them.
Every single one. And this little area of some stronger winds, that's going to cross over State Highway 79. So if State Highway 79 north of Irvington approaching the Guston area, be prepared for some powerful winds. Whether it's rotating or it's straight line, it doesn't matter if it's 60 to 70 miles per hour. That can definitely do some damage, and obviously it's not warned at this moment, so I just want to give you the heads up that if you live in Guston, some strong winds are moving your direction. So let's just hope that that can weaken a little bit. We still have that area of rotation inside of the tornado warning itself. I'm going to go over to storm relative velocity, and there's definitely some spin there. And we also see the area of spin around Irvington. So there are multiple areas we're watching here where we could see some brief spin ups. And just like we signed off from the newscast at 11 o'clock, moving forward, obviously high winds and hail the main two threats, but we cannot take these off the table tonight.
And you can see, Rick, they just followed what you said. Obviously, that area rotation that's in Meade County, Weather Service recognizes what Rick DeLuca just analyzed prior to the warning being issued, and that is if you can justify the warning in Breck County, you can justify it in Meade because, quite frankly, you have the same quantity of rotation. The Weather Service has a challenge. You know, I'm going to be completely clear. They have to deal with these quick spin-up type scenarios. And the problem is that you can get these quick spin-ups. Sometimes we issue severe thunderstorm with tornado possible. Sometimes we go with tornado warning. Rick's looking at products here to try to sense whether we're seeing any debris there. Rick, we've got two eyes on this. As I see it, I don't see anything that screams to me tornado on the ground right now.
Me neither. I'm going to just go back and make sure we have reflectivity, because if you don't have that spin or that damage inside reflectivity, then it's false. What the information is telling you does not exist. So we do have a little bowing segment around Irvington. That backward C showing up in reflectivity, and in the apex of that bow is where you get the strongest winds. We also have that little appendage which has the second area of rotation, which is now far east of the Hardinsburg area. A couple of roads, that's Old Highway 60, that's right along let's try to get a couple more roads. Garfield Road. So again, if you are down in these locations where we have the tornado warnings present, then you need to be in your safe place. This should stay, at least the strongest rotation, just south of West Point. And that's one of the areas that has gotten hit over and over again in the past several years, where it's like, I feel like every single time we've tracked severe storms in that location. So I know you're probably heavily alerted. You're paying attention with the tornado watch until 4 o'clock in the morning. But here in Louisville, I would say within the next hour or so, we will see this ramp up and then come to an end. So if you are in Louisville and you're curious, what does this mean for me the rest of the night? I think we're going to see this main line of storms pass through within the hour. And then after that, the severe threat will start to come down.
And so you can see from the weather perspective here, by the way, Louisville, now you're under a severe thunderstorm warning.
Okay, so here we go.
So Louisville is now under a warning. You know, everybody out there, if you're watching from Louisville, we're now under a warning, and I want to get you, I'm going to try to take the tornado warnings out so you can get a sense of what's for Louisville. The hail size for Louisville is not expected to be large as it stands right now. What we have for hail size for Louisville on the current is 60-mile-per-hour winds with 3/4 hail. 3/4 inch hail is not huge. That's a positive there. I'm going to move, by the way, while we're doing all this, I'm going to move the 800 building camera to the west just so we can basically see, rather than looking at the downtown buildings, we'll be able to look at the storms as they're on approach here. So I'm going to be changing that in the process while we're doing all this stuff. By the way, if you ever want to see our cameras live when we're on the air, or when we're not on the air, you can view all of these. They're always on our website, always 24/7. So you can just go to WDRB.com, you click on weather, and you would come onto our weather cameras. So if we could, what I'd like to do with this severe storm heading towards Louisville, if we could kind of go with a 2-box at this point, so we have the Louisville camera on one side and then we have the radar on the other side. So as it stands in Louisville right now, let me tell you what to expect Louisville. So I'm going to take off the lightning because there's so much of it. It just becomes somewhat challenging at times to see through it. So the strongest part of the storm right now is in New Albany. It extends southward. So this now is extending to, it's about to hit the west end of Louisville. So Portland, Chickasaw, heading southward to Rubbertown as it's about to cross the river. It then affects potentially PRP in around 2 minutes, around 3 minutes to 4 minutes in Valley Station, and then further south as we get to the Jefferson-Bullitt County line along Dixie Highway. It's probably got another 12 minutes to get to you. The strongest portion of the line goes from Dogwood, Indiana, hitting the Elizabeth area right now, and then hitting through around the Parkland area. Rick, you've got Storm View 3D. Just I want to verify here briefly, with the storms moving into Louisville, are you seeing anything on there in terms of rotation that would concern you? I'm going to turn it over to 3D. Just, you know, briefly again, browsing through this, that area West Point a little bit conspicuous close to the ground, but it does appear to me, based on where we're looking at from radar, that is a downburst wind.
Right, a bit more linear. And downburst winds, basically what you get is this rain-cooled air, this pocket up aloft, and then you get some dry air, and what it does is it bursts down to the surface, almost like taking a bucket of water. And imagine pouring that out. Well, the same applies to the wind, so that's why you would see damage come straight down and then fan out from a central point. So that's what he's referring to as downburst winds, and typically storms that collapse will have these. This is a different scenario. These storms are embedded within a line and a cluster of storms, and some of these are supercells, and these supercells, they rotate. And that's what we have ongoing inside these 2 tornado warnings. One just east of Irvington and another one approaching Custer, where we have some weak rotation. This is not a situation where I think we have damage being done, and I can verify that. First things first, so you see the greens and the reds in Guston, the other one just about, let's say, 5 miles to the west of Custer. I'm going to go over to correlation coefficient, and if I see any sort of blue dots where I had that area of rotation, I would be concerned. Not seeing that right now, so that is a good sign that we don't have rotation. But it looks like the Custer one's coming up a little bit, and the gusting one may have come down. Okay, so I would say less rotation on the northern extent, but more rotation showing up on the southern one around Custer. That couplet looks just a little bit better within this recent scan. So what I'm going to do is go over to normalized rotation. We don't have the green means go. Still not seeing any debris being lofted in the air. So while the rotation has come up, still no signs that we have a tornado which is doing damage or anything like that. But still, you should be in your safe place in Custer. I hope you are there right now. What you can do,
yeah, that
if you're
looks
not,
a little bit more
it's definitely a little bit more. So, but nothing on correlation coefficient. What you can do, you should be in your safe place in Custer. So turn up the TV, just jack up the volume, go to your safe place so you can still hear our advice, and that way when we say, hey, you're in the clear, you'll know when to come out. But I would say for the next 15-20 minutes, just go to your safe place, let the storm pass by. It's not worth the risk.
And you can kind of see how these are definitely miniature supercells that are within the line. You can see how it's kind of got that hook appearance near the Ekron area, and there's a little bit of a hook appearance that's south of Irvington, and then there's another one of those notches that is in the southern part of this warning right now that's south of Corners. But that area of rotation, there's definitely multiple within there that are somewhat that's even coming up near Muldrow.
It is, sorry.
This is a problem now. We've got multiple areas that we're getting rotation within the line. So I'm going to take it over to StormView 3D. So we're going to spend a couple times. So there's an area of rotation to the east-northeast of Ekron. That's east-northeast of Ekron by about 6 miles. There's an area of rotation that's to the southeast of the Guston area. That one's moving off towards the east. So we have these multiple areas of rotation. Both of them look at least like they could produce a quick tornado. And then as we go further to the south, to me, so there's two things here. Rick, we're looking a little bit higher in the atmosphere near Custer, probably by about 300, 400 feet. And there's a new scan coming in. That's super helpful. So that rotation that you saw, if you noted on the last scan, there were pinks right there, right next to the green. The current scan shows they're not there anymore, so the rotation may have briefly weakened. This is what's going to happen, guys. We're going to see an uptick in rotation. It's going to go down, up and down, and we're going to assess on the spot what we're dealing with. Rick, more concerned about what's occurring now near Muldrow. That is coming up in intensity here. That's close to radar. That looks like that one's about 1,100 feet above the ground. Are we seeing any debris in that? That's a concern.
Not seeing any debris at this moment, but I mean, like you said, these things evolve so quickly in a matter of minutes that it could quickly drop down a quick tornado. So that's why we're keeping an eye on these things vigilantly. Looking over at base velocity, at the bare minimum, you're looking at 70 knot winds, so that would be in the neighborhood of probably 75, 78 mile per hour winds.
Right.
So 70 mile per hour winds, that can do damage.
And that's the problem here, is even if you don't get the tornado, we look through different products here, but what we're looking at is that there's an additive function here. So if a storm is producing 40-mile-an-hour winds and it's moving at 40 miles an hour, that means now that that wind has a relative speed of 80. So it means that when these storms are moving this quickly, you can get significant amounts of wind. Muldrow, I would be careful right now. You're right on the edge of where that tornado warning is and the severe thunderstorm warning. I think you need to be in your safe spot. If you're in Flaherty, let's take it easy right now. Get to your safe spot in your home and turn up the TV. Also, remember, you can get the stream live on the WDRB Plus, on our WDRB News app, and you can find me on my Facebook page right now, as we have a live running there as well. Those are the areas that are main interest. We also have an area of rotation that's near Custer. This one looks the most diffuse of them all, Rick.
Right.
Interestingly enough, the area of rotation right now that's the strongest is between Ekron and Muldrow, and that, oddly enough, is outside of the warning. It's drifting in now.
It is riding that line. So I know it can be very confusing because there's a gap between where we have the severe thunderstorm warning and where we have the tornado warning. And if you're in Muldrow right now, you need to be in your safe place. What does that mean? It means downstairs. It means you need to be underneath something. You want to be in the center part of your home, and you really need to keep away from windows. I mean, it's so many people. I understand you're curious. You want to get outside, see what's happening. This is not the scenario to do that, especially on the western edge of your home where these storms are coming in. You need to get away from the windows. We've already had so much damage today around the Milton and also the Madison area. This is not this same scenario. I'll repeat, it's not the same scenario. That was a supercell. That was all alone. It was a tail end Charlie. It had all the atmospheric juice and fuel to work with. This is a line of storms which present quick spin-ups, and right now in Louisville, you are under a severe thunderstorm warning. What are the threats? 60-mile-per-hour winds. And now we have those strong winds, and it is coming down in buckets in areas like Portland, down through Parkland, into the rubber area, Chickasaw, down through Riverside Gardens, Shively. You are now on the edge of the very heavy rain, but there are out ahead of this main line. PRP, get ready. You're about to get drenched. Extremely heavy rainfall, gusty winds that is now impacting areas like Valley Station, and this will wipe its way across the county. Right now, it's confined to the western edge, but it's going to move off to the east pretty rapidly, around 40 to 50 miles per hour. That puts it in St. Matthews in about 10, Jeffersontown in 20, Eastwood in 25, Simpsonville 35, and Finchville in about 45 minutes or so. If this line can hold together, it will slide across your area. But it is presenting quite the wind signature right now. Again, 60-mile-per-hour plus is possible in Louisville. So please be wary about the fact that we have strong and severe storms inside the metro with tornado-warned storms to the south of that. And Mark's going over to the wall to analyze what we have going on inside the tornado-warned storms. What you're looking at is velocity. And Mark, you can explain to the people what exactly they're looking at.
And what we're going to do is we're going to continue to monitor up and down this line, including Louisville, exactly what's happening. We always promise you guys is real-time live analysis of what's occurring. I will say the Weather Service is doing the same thing that we are, but the advantage here that we have is if I see something in the immediacy of the scan, I can tell you instantly what's occurring here. So this is what we always offer. Muldrow, look, there's an area rotation now that's very close to you. Rick, 600 feet off the ground here? I mean, this looks awfully close to the ground.
No, only 200.
200. So Muldrow, the rotation's 200 feet above the ground. You've got to be in your tornado safe spot now. Around with this when it's close to the radar. We know we're looking much closer to the ground. It is over Muldrow right now, so Muldrow in your safe spot, which is downstairs underneath something, center part of the house. Keep away from windows. We're not looking at anything that shows debris right now, and I don't want to play up unnecessarily. The problem is this may produce a tornado with little advance notice, and so the important thing to do in Muldrow is play it safe. There's the body of the storm. There's the hook. Very obvious that we have this hook right now near the Muldrow area. Let's go further down the line. We've got a break in the line as well. Here, not looking at rotation. Flaherty, now we have that rotation just to your west and then further south. So what you have to understand is the further you get away from the radar. People ask me this a lot. Mark, why don't you just aim the radar flat along the horizon? We wouldn't have to be looking higher up in the sky as you get farther away from the radar. Makes complete sense until you realize that there's trees near the ground. There are buildings near the ground down in Louisville. And what happens when you do that is the radar beam that basically gets absorbed by the trees, by the buildings, and you can't see anything. It blocks the radar beam. The only choice is to angle up. New tornado warning just issued here now. This is for that area rotation that we mentioned. So this is the one that's moved through the Custer area. So let's move down the line. Elizabethtown. You're under a tornado warning now. Is the storm on top of you? No. But you've got about 20 minutes to think about your plan. If you've got kids, if you've got animals, pets that you're going to need to get into the safe spot, it's maybe a good time to get ready, plan to get them awake. And you can see here is the hook, and there is where it rotates into the storm. One of the things you note here is there's multiple storms out ahead of this. The hope here obviously is that would weaken, but we're going to need to continue to monitor scan by scan. Rick, let's go back up the line. Excuse me, as we look at let's look at velocity here. And I apologize, by the way, we've been talking a lot today. My voice is definitely taking a beating. That is in the rural western part of Hardin County. We have an area of rotation right now that's going to go between Radcliffe and Rhineyville. That area is looking at about 800 feet above the ground. We've got the area near Muldrow that we're watching very closely. This one basically is right on top of Muldrow right now. And in terms of rocking back and forward in terms of the intensity, they look pretty static to me. We're not seeing any major upward or downward trend. Rick, let's go northward into Louisville, see what we've got ongoing right now. I just want to inspect in terms of if we've got any rotation. The radar is showing a little bit of what we call a tornado vortex signature. Rick, with the purple bad data, can you take me up one level and see if we can get rid of the bad data? Sometimes it's a trick we have. We'll go up, let's go up one more and see if we can get the bad data out. Okay, that looks like a bogus TVS, so that's good. But, you know, even in Louisville, I will tell you that there could be brief spin-ups. We're going to have to watch this thing. So the area of winds that are going to be the strongest right now, spreading across Louisville. Let's go over to reflectivity here so we can identify the areas of interest. So the strongest storm, let's go from northeast Louisville down through the county. So the strongest part of the line right now is going to be on the front edge here. So this is in Worthington, approaching Anchorage 2 minutes from now. Remember, this is moving to the east. In St. Matthews, immediately. 50 to 60 mile an hour winds potentially right now. Hurstbourne, this is going to be at your location for at midnight. J-Town, there is a storm in front, but the main line, which is back behind, would be in J-Town around 6 minutes from now. This is also now pushed through the airport. Audubon Park, it's over you. As we went outside, then we go into Fern Creek about 8 minutes from now. Further south, the line right now is about to approach I-65 outside of the Waterston Expressway. It's going to get past there and get into the Okolona area. Preston around 8 minutes from now. Heritage Creek around 4 to 5 minutes from now. And then Jefferson County Forest as we get into the southern part of Jefferson County. You're talking about 2 to 3 minutes from now. And then it will continue into the Hillview area as we look at outside of Jefferson County, probably about 9 minutes from now. This should give you an idea of when to expect the strong winds, and you can see it continues to press through Louisville. One of the positives I'm seeing is the intensity may be coming down just a little bit. Notice how intense it was to the west, and notice how it's weakening a little bit. And it's pouring in downtown Louisville right now. Rick, let's go further down the line and let's get back to the velocity, which has been our important thing to determine whether we're looking at rotation within the storm. Since we've got new radar data here, just want to look through Louisville here briefly, see if anything catches my attention. Nothing out there is overly concerning right now. It doesn't mean that you can't get quick spins. We're going to be watching. And Rick, do you know, does the warning have a tour possible on it, or does it just... It
does not.
Okay, good.
It's simply for 60s.
Good, I appreciate that. So let's go further down the line back into the tornado warning. Louisville, we're going to continue to monitor you very closely. Understand, if I'm looking at this, we've got Rick's eyes on something else. So we always have eyes on everything. Area of rotation near Muldrow doesn't look as good to me right now. Is it there? Yes, but this is weakening. That's good, a good sign there. But you know what, Rick, you can see these here. You can check the pixels here. I'm guessing we're looking at upper 50s to near 60 on these hot pixels here.
53.
Okay, 53 would mathematic, remember that's in knots, would take us to around 60-ish. And I'm also noting here, Rick, along the basically western part of Bullitt County, another one that's got some hotter pixels in there as well.
It's about 49, 48.
Okay, so these will be approaching Shepherdsville. They're between 50 and 60 in the next 12 minutes. Areas of rotation, looking west of Radcliffe, nothing jumps out at me. Looking at Vine Grove, Rick, agree, disagree? Looks like that rotation is becoming more diffuse.
Yeah, I'm going to rock back just to verify.
Okay.
But it seems like...
More intense there?
There's a slight little uptick near the Rineyville area. The overall trend is weakening.
Agreed. And let's go a little bit further south on that line then as well, as we have the one that's west of the Elizabethtown area. Rick, I'm positive on what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing all of this looks like it's coming down a little bit. And quite frankly, I think that you can really logic that out based on science. There's rain and thunderstorms ahead of this line. At some point, that's going to have an impact.
It only had like a very narrow window where it would thrive and survive, and that was between where we had the rain and where we didn't. So the rain-free zone is kind of running out of room. It's kind of running out of roadway, if you will. And the thunderstorm action out ahead of it has gone up, has been so intense that it's now taking energy from that secondary or the back line, which we've been watching all along. But that first one took shape very rapidly, shot up some thunderstorms. A couple went severe. Hail was the main threat, but obviously moving forward, it's going to be the tornado and the gusty winds, and gusty winds definitely the top of the list in Louisville 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, and those strong winds extend south. I am not seeing as much rotation.
It's positive.
Which is a very positive thing to pass along inside either tornado warning, the one that includes Radcliffe and that includes E-Town. So that is good news to pass along. In fact, it looks really linear down to our south.
And what Rick's saying is linear means we're not seeing as much rotation potential.
Right, so you could still get some strong winds, don't get the wrong idea, but it wouldn't be rotating as hard as it once was.
And let's three box if we could, by the way. Let's throw some of our cameras in. E-Town's looking west right now, so that would be looking into if there was going to be a tornado on that storm. We're looking towards it. That said, what we're seeing on radar right now doesn't show that. It just simply doesn't. Can we also pop maybe downtown Louisville in here briefly to check out? We've heard the downpour occurring in downtown Louisville. I'm going to move this camera a little bit further towards the east. And Richard, you could stay with this shot. We can just kind of move as we're watching. So we'll kind of pan this across Louisville as we're looking at the storms. There's downtown Louisville. I'm a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds ahead of you. So you'll see the panning occurring here momentarily. And then ultimately what's going to happen is it'll stop. There's some lightning strikes over Louisville. You know, Louisville's rocking and rolling right now. Got strong winds that are moving through the county right now, 50 to 60 mile an hour winds. I'm more concerned about the wind potential here approaching Shepherdsville, Rick. We're getting even more hot pixels there now, just south of Shepherdsville, maybe some a little bit higher. Those look like they're low 60s maybe.
They are absolutely low 60s.
So that means that we're now talking about pixels that are getting closer to 65 miles an hour. Rick, the problem with that is that's close to radar. So this is ground real. This is real. So if you're between Shepherdsville and Lebanon Junction, this is going to be just north of Belmont. So if you go on exit south of Shepherdsville, that's where you're going to run into the strongest winds right now. Be aware, some of those may be 60, 65, 70 mile an hour winds. These are strong, dangerous winds that are moving through this area.
Yeah, this is one of those scenarios where, I mean, this could easily do some damage to your siding. You know, if it's garbage night, the trash cans are going to get knocked over. I mean, that's almost a guarantee. Lawn furniture can end up in your neighbor's yard. This is the kind of scenario where you just want to play it safe. Again, if you're upstairs, if you have kids who are, you know, fast asleep, I would say it's really smart just to make sure they're away from windows. And now we're seeing the power outages start to come up, coinciding with some of those stronger winds. Jefferson County, 110 customers without power.
That's not crazy. I mean,
it's not too bad. I mean, we've seen far worse. Far worse. But, you know, this again could go up because the strongest winds haven't cleared Bullitt County. In fact, they are now moving into the highest populated areas like Shepherdsville. So we are going to see these winds traverse through. If it does damage, then you'll notice the perfect correlation of the strong winds passing through and power outages going up. So that's kind of something we're going to keep an eye on here if those power outages start to go up. I also want to just quickly kind of go down the line. Still the two areas not overly concerned with tight couplets or anything. Still they're rotating, but I'm not seeing anything that says we have a tornado ongoing, doing damage or anything like that, just to help put you at ease. I know nights like this, they can take a lot out of you. It's now 12:03.
Isn't it the truth, though?
Yeah, I mean, you want to go to sleep.
I mean,
I'm sure.
it's unnerving.
It's Thursday. People have work tomorrow. It's not the weekend or anything.
I
you
mean,
can't
and the
sleep
kid's going to be grumpy if you wake him up late at night. Rick's dog will probably somehow get sick and maybe eat some chocolate.
Yeah, that already happened last night.
Oh,
it's been a long week.
Rick had to go home last night and Hank had eaten a little bit of chocolate.
He did. A lot of chocolate.
And
then I got him to throw it up, and then I turned my back, and he was eating it. So that was a failed attempt. Welcome to my life.
But we understand you, your dog, everybody be cranky getting up. What we want to do, though, is we know that you're hearing the thunder and lightning. We know a lot of people are going to be turning on the TV wondering what's going on. We've got our friends here on my Facebook Live video. If you're on, if you want to watch and you're not by the TV, we get it. The world's changing. You can pull us up on your iPad. You can pull my Facebook Live feed up. You can pull up the WDRB Plus app. You can pull us up on WDRB, our regular news app. You can stream us off the website. Our goal at this point in the way the world's changing is to be available. We know at 12 o'clock at night, honestly, there's probably not a lot of people watching our television shows. Andy Griffith might be on. I don't think the Andy Griffith viewers are going to be calling complaining. Maybe they are, but I don't know how many people are left in the newsroom.
They'll definitely be
But
reruns.
we'll continue to watch. I mean, the reality here is, guys, we're here with you.
Yeah,
We have 2 tornado warnings ongoing right now. We're trying to have a little bit of fun because we know this is stressful. But let's get back to business. We've got rotation here continuing. Rick, south of Radcliffe right now, maybe a little bit of an area rotation. It just doesn't look great. And what's rotating in Hardin County right now is on a beeline to probably go just about maybe a half a mile south of kind of the main strip, in Dixie in Elizabethtown.
Right.
But all of this said, you know, I'm not going to downplay what we have on the tornado warning. I'm very concerned about what's moving to Shepherdsville.
Those
look like
strong winds.
62 knot.
Yeah, and then another severe thunderstorm warning. So it looks like the weather.
They're going to move over. They're going to move to severe thunderstorm.
It looks like they're starting to evolve.
And I'm going to move back over briefly just to Stormview HD, and you can kind of check those warnings for us. But, you know, obviously the curiosity here is, are we going with Tor possible on any of these? And that really, I'll show you what we've got on Louisville. Louisville is a severe only, a 3/4 inch hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. Rick, are they going Tor possible on that?
They are not.
Okay, so this is important to note. The new severe thunderstorm warning that would outpace these tornado warnings, still a tornado warning in effect for Hardin County until 12:30. Severe tornado warning in effect for Hardin Meade County until 12:15. It does appear the Weather Service is making that transition over. Wider perspective, let's just talk about what's occurring here. So the merger that was well advertised in the data is occurring. This is important to note. The merger means now that the front line has taken over and the back line is now dying off. Notice what's going on in Seymour. It's not the line it once was. This means that once this goes through Louisville, it's going to be show over for you. I want to be clear on that. Once this gets through Louisville, it's show over. So for Louisville, let's talk what we're dealing with. Our strongest winds right now would be around, let's say, Valhalla, on Shelbyville Road outside of the Gene Snyder. That would then go right through the J-Town area, Fern Creek. So we're talking the northern side of Fern Creek. We're basically talking the pinch north of the Gene Snyder. So specifically, that would be, let's just say, near the Kroger out there. Then we get onto around Preston Highway, and that's now overtaken Preston Highway. So that's going to be making its march to the east. We'll go through Beulah Church Road in the next 6 minutes. So that if you're in Glenmary, outside of the Gene Snyder along Bardstown Road, it's going to be in your location in about the next 6 minutes. Mount Washington, remember, you're on the northern part of what's in the Bullitt County area, so I'm more concerned about the winds near Shepherdsville that would likely then extend just south of the Shepherdsville area. Really concerned about these winds right now. I think some of those will be near 44, but I think that probably the strongest are going to be going down 480, which takes it towards Solitude. Then we've got our tornado warned cells as we look towards around Radcliffe. In terms of rotation in Radcliffe, I'm not overly concerned right now. And then watching the area of rotation, it looks like the Weather Service completely canceled the tornado warning that was west of E-Town. Let me verify that. But Rick, that kind of goes well with what we've been seeing, and that is that the area of rotation is coming down on part of this. Interestingly enough, one of our systems still shows the E-Town warning and is not showing the Radcliffe warning. Rick, I'm going to give this to you for a second, but I'm going to see if we can clarify where these warnings are as we're at least in a process of seeing things changing here. So I'm looking at the new warnings here from the Weather Service just so I can get you. Weather Service canceled, Rick, just so we're clear, for Hardin County, and they expired the tornado warning for Hardin Meade. So understand that the tornado warning canceled for Hardin means no longer effective until 12:30, gone. This means that the tornado warning for Hardin Meade is until 12:15. I'll tell you what my plan here is. I know that a lot of people in Louisville are probably going to be wondering what's going on, and I think that what we're going to do is, you know, it's 12:10 at night. What's the hurt of staying in as we kind of walk these storms through? The tornado warning has been allowed to expire in the Radcliffe area, so that'll be coming off the map here in the next 5 minutes. It means the rotation's not there. It's just simply not there. But we'll walk the storms through Louisville because, quite frankly, it's in the middle of the night. There's going to be a lot of people that are curious. Rick, I'm going to move back over to the outage map briefly. Look at the difference.
Wow.
There we go. So Rick can tell you a small story about this, but over the last few years, I have kind of taken up this hobby of writing scripts. And so, I know it's not funny, but it's funny. So we now are able to get power outages in our weather system live as this is occurring. So Louisville, when Rick talked to you last time, you had 120 power outages. Now we've got 3,700. Rick, what this tells us is this is a real-time indicator that there's damage being done in Louisville by the storms. If this was a high-end scenario, we probably have 10,000 plus. But for the 4,000 approximately people without power, it's significant.
It's a big deal. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thankfully, it's not getting terribly colder behind this front.
Right.
I mean, that would be a different scenario. But
and my guess is they can get these back on.
You can get these back on. You know, obviously, crews are aware of the severe weather. They're probably already on standby, en route, ready to go. But I just want to give you a quick, just heads up and put you at ease for those of you who live to the northwest. If you're in areas like Charlestown, if you're in Borden, if you live...
And I'm going to come over to you so you can have, we've got your radar up, Rick.
If you live in like Whiskey Run, New Amsterdam, from Salem, basically anywhere from Scottsburg through Seymour, North Vernon, Madison, you are in the clear. Take a deep breath, exhale. The severe threat is over for you, and the Weather Service will start trimming the severe thunderstorm watch to take counties out. But obviously our south and our eastern counties have not seen the rain and storms just yet. You'll get them in a weaker fashion, but you still need to be on guard.
And by the way, we just got a report that some of these power outages are coming in out of Old Louisville. This is where we have some of our most mature and older trees.
Right.
So traditionally speaking, we tend to get trees that go down maybe a little bit easier out of Louisville than other areas. So be aware that we've got some damage that occurred on the storms going through Old Louisville. So if we kind of think down the line, and you can kind of see where that outage is, if we kind of go down the line, that means near the airport. It means, J-Town. This is an area where we know that the storms have at least done some damage. This is important to note. Again, you can see that the core power outages in Louisville is out of Old Louisville. So 6 minutes from now, Mount Washington. 18 minutes from now, it'll be in the Finchville area. Taylorsville, while you're not under a warning right now, let me just tell you that you still need to be aware. 29 minutes from now in the Hemp Ridge area. 40 minutes from now. Another 2.5 minutes and the tornado warning will come off the map. Remember, the National Weather Service has expired that warning, so that is gone out of the picture and will no longer be in play.
Mark, I have a quick addition to that, actually. I spoke with an arborist recently.
Okay.
And, he was just talking about some of the trees, in particular at Old Louisville, how we have the sidewalks, and he calls them tree graveyards, because the root systems, there's really not much for it to grab on, because you have the street, the asphalt on one side, and typically someone's yard, which, there's a lot of stone and whatnot, so the roots don't have as much to latch onto. So,
and they're huge.
And they're massive, like you said, hundreds and hundreds of years old. So those trees are more susceptible to some of the stronger winds and the tree damage, and that's why Old Louisville tends to get so many of the power outages.
Makes sense here. And just kind of briefly going back, let me take us over to the outage map here. This is the latest: 147 without power in Harrison County, 68 without power in Floyd. Not a big deal right now in Clark unless you're the 40 without power. 3,700 without power in Louisville. The main core of that is in Old Louisville right now, where we're getting most of those power outages. I want to say a big thank you to our executive producer, assistant news director, I should say, Andy, who's in the control room. And if you ever see a TV person, you'll probably notice that we have these in our ear. They're the voices that are always getting information on what's going on behind the scenes. The true story is, I told Andy to go home. I said that we would take care of it. But I got to tell you, there's a degree of pride that a lot of WDRB takes. And after a day like today, where we saw tornado damages, Stefan Johnson's one of my best friends, and Stefan was like, I'm going up there, and got with his photographer, got up into the Milton, Madison area and was covering it, and Katrina was up there walking amongst this, and I will tell you, Rick and I have been doing this for quite some time together. Weather is something that you and I can cover as a team, what's going on right now. But we have a concept as a television station that weather is news. And what we mean by that is we have an army of reporters and drone pilots and photographers. We have our news director, we have executive producers, we have producers. an army that's at the disposal of the television station. What we do is we cover the severe weather on air, but I got to just say we appreciate our news team and what they do. We can't do this stuff on our own, and you know what, I think sometimes we get people saying Mark or Rick, we appreciate. I just want you guys to know that we have people and our production crew that have been here for a really long time behind the scenes, and the hours that they work allow you and I to do what we do, and we appreciate it. To be able to cover the extent of what occurred today would never have been possible without a large group. And just, you know, we just want to thank you. Louisville, by the way, you're out of the severe thunderstorm warning right now. So Louisville, the severe thunderstorm warning's been allowed to expire. Still 37 without power, 3,700 without power. The primary core, that's in Old Louisville. I don't know an estimate on the restoration of power, but my guess is that they're probably going to be able to work through some of this. Obviously, it would depend if it's a branch or, as Rick mentioned, one of those monster trees. We still have severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. No tornado warnings in effect right now.
They seem to be doing the blanket warnings, what we refer to as those larger warnings, which cover a large area. And I can give you the exact threats that they are warning now for. 60-mile-per-hour winds. That is the main threat, and that extends along the entire line. So again, wind's the main threat here moving forward. Can't rule out some hail. We've gotten some pictures of some hail, but it is of the smaller variety.
And I'm going to go over to the weather wall real quickly, Rick, so we can kind of do a quick tour of what's going on in the area. Spend a little bit of time on this. It's been you know, Rick, I'm trying to think back. It's been some time since we've been on air this long. It's been a little bit here.
I can't even put my finger on exactly how long it's been.
It started at 2 o'clock when we got in here.
Not that we're complaining.
And hey, Jay, can you do me a favor? Can you turn the camera and can you show what our producers do? I'm just going to show you real quickly here. So, you know, when we're on TV, like I mentioned, there's always people behind the scenes that are doing other things. And the creativity, you can see, they knew that we're coming over into this area, so they put the power outages on this television screen so I can see it out of the corner of the weather office. So you can see 3,700 without power out of Jefferson County. Breckenridge County has 518 without power. And this is the thing that Andy was telling us, is Meade County is coming up. Now 1,400 people without power. So we're getting power outages. And Jay, it's late at night. Let's follow me back over to the wall here. So Jay's going to move the camera, and you can see this is where we stand. This, by the way, the reason you see kind of what behind me is only weather maps is it's a green screen. And so the green screen, it's why you never see a weatherman wearing green. The green behind me is where they put the weather map. If a weatherman or a meteorologist has green on, the computer thinks that we're part of that screen back there.
And then we can't celebrate St. Patrick's Day.
We cannot. And it puts the
we always get pinched.
Yeah, and Rick, I can just show you, you know, while we're on, it's late at night. I'll just show you. Here's a green towel. So you can kind of see what happens. If I was wearing green, it wouldn't know what was the wall. It would think that what I was wearing was green. So that's kind of how that works. What we've got out there right now, severe thunderstorm warning for Bullitt, Hardin, LaRue, and Nelson County. You'll notice that the hail is becoming less of a threat. I'm glad about that. That's one of those things that you can't not wake up when you hear it hitting the window. 60-mile-per-hour winds on the nose of this line. Let's take that off and let's just look down it. So that means Mount Washington. This means heading towards Taylorsville. It means Lebanon Junction right now. It means Bardstown. Look, Bardstown, Kentucky are now under a severe thunderstorm warning. Good news is we're not expecting a lot of hail, but 60-mile-per-hour winds remain possible. The strongest winds have now moved through Elizabethtown. We've got the line as well near Hodgenville, and Rick's going to track it to the east. Boston, Kentucky, 1 minute from now, 16 minutes from now in the Bloomfield area. Loretto 16 minutes from now, and 31 minutes from now in the St. Mary area. The Weather Service is likely to start chopping counties. As they chop counties, what that means is they're going to release completely from the watch. That is the reality. The watch goes until 4 a.m. Rick and I will watch. Strongest winds right now are likely near the Lebanon Junction area. Remember, that southern Bullitt County area is probably where we're seeing the strongest winds. But we've got a positive sign here, Rick. We're seeing some weakening along the line. And Louisville, you know, I'm glad to say this, it looks like we're moving into the all clear here in Louisville.
Yep. I think the worst is done here in Louisville. Now we're just kind of focusing in on our far southeastern communities. That is the only spot that we could still see some warnings occur. Again, power outages, nearly 4,000 in Jefferson County do not have power. Again, do not have power. So obviously,
and Rick, I'm going to update that one in Jefferson real quickly. Andy mentioned that we might have up to 5,000 now without power here in Louisville. So let me check. There's the new update. All right, 5,065 without power here in Louisville. So the power outages are going up here in Louisville. The good news about Louisville here is the worst of the storms have moved through. The bad news is we're is increasing now. As you know, Jefferson County heavily weighs our viewing area. There are a ton of people that live in Louisville, but Bullitt County's now come up a little bit here in the number of outages as well at 268. Shelby County not a lot at 4. Spencer is void at this point. Harrison has 148 without power and 40 out of Clark. Andy, are the majority of the outages still in Old Louisville out of Jefferson County, or are we seeing additional ones? Okay, so we're starting to get additional ones across the county. While there's no warning right now, here's the reality. You know, we're coming out of winter. Sometimes you can have some weaker trees that just let go. Right. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe we're talking 50-mile-an-hour winds. I think sometimes, you know, in our science, we're focused on whether it meets criteria. Does it hit the 58 that we require for severe thunderstorm warnings? The reality of the situation is 50-mile-an-hour winds, while technically not severe, can indeed produce damage. So
I mean, if this happened, let's say, a month down the road, we'd have all these trees with leaves on them, which increases the surface area and has a tendency to take down even more trees. So thankfully, while the trees are budding and a lot of the flowers will be, and the pollen's going to be all over the place tomorrow. The leaves do not have the trees do not have leaves on them, so it's less surface area for those winds to pick up, which can sometimes reduce the number of trees that get knocked down. But obviously, we have some being power's going down in parts of Louisville with 5,000 people now without power, and areas who still have to watch out for strong to severe, just to call them out: Springfield, Lebanon, Campbellsville, Greensburg, and areas like Columbia. Storms have not cleared your area just yet, so that is the zone we will watch very carefully over the next 2 hours or so before the storms clear. Once they do, you are good to go. And as we said before, Louisville, you can basically close your eyes and
go to bed,
you sleep fast and sound, knowing that the severe threat for you is long gone.
And guys, since we have no more tornado warnings in our area here at this point, these are not severe with tornado possible. We're going to move back over to programming. The strongest winds right now would be along the Bullitt, Hardin, and Nelson County line. So yes, that includes Bardstown. Be aware, some 60-mile-per-hour winds are possible. Whether we're on TV or not, understand that Rick and I will continue to watch these warnings. There are no tornado warnings in effect right now. Just kind of a recap of what has occurred today. Just after 2, a tornado touched down and did damage near the Milton, Madison area, and then kind of crossed back and forth along the Ohio River. The Weather Service has surveyed this area. They have not surveyed the whole area. They have found at least EF2 damage. The surveys are going to take some days to get done. There's a lot of work.
EF2 is 111 to 135 mile per hour winds. So just to give you the scope of how strong those winds were.
And it's going to take some time to find out the exact width of this and how long it was on the ground for. But wanted you to know where we stand on that. We're continuing to watch the storms here, and we will through the overnight hours. Keep it right here on WDRB for continuing weather updates.
Join our regularly scheduled program already in progress.